stage Richard Robinson from the Ingenuity Group, Richard Bowden from Number 7 Beauty, Sarah Holt from Centre Parks, and Cara Chambers from the C&C Group.
Thank you.
And they're squeezing the pink chair.
Well, it's lovely to be here in sunny Manchester, and delighted to see that MadFest has come north from London. I think. Hello, Ed. Nice to see you. I have got, it's just called a sort of a power panel, but I'm absolutely delighted to have three of what I would call the most dynamic senior marketers in the UK today to come to talk to us all about the perfect pitch. We've got Sarah Holt, who is the incoming Chief Marketing Officer of Centre Parks, starting on the
17th of March.
17th of March, just a few days to go. We've got Cara Chambers, who's the Chief Marketing Officer of C&C Group. Most of you will be familiar with Tenants, with Magners, with Menabrea, and all of the other amazing brands she works on. And lastly, Richard Bowden, who is the Richard Bowden, Richard Breeden's a completely different person.
I know.
Richard Bowden, who is the Marketing Director of Boots Number 7. So to keep it easy for all of you, if you hadn't noticed, we have Sarah, Cara, Richard, and Richard. It's going to go very well. I did ask Sarah and Cara if they would change, but not today. So the year of the perfect pitch, why are we calling it? Why am I looking at 2025 that way? Well, as part of Ingenuity Plus, we run a tracker with 500 marketing directors. We've got 2 quarters of data now in. And one of the questions we ask is, how likely are you for 500 marketing directors to definitely be pitching some or all of your marketing within the next 12 months? And after 2 quarters worth of data, October 2024, 69% said that they would definitely be pitching some or all of their marketing. And for the Q1 2025, February, the data's gone up to 73%. So that's a clear 4 percentage point shift of people like Cara, Sarah, Richard, thinking about going out into market. So I thought today we'd ask some questions and understand the market. We've only got 20 minutes, so it's going to be slightly quick fire, as you're going to find. So, quick fire question number 1, Sarah. What is making you feel optimistic right now?
Well, I've got a new gig. I'm going to be CMO of Centre Parks, and the reason why I'm really optimistic, not just because I've got such an amazing new gig, is because in about October, November of last year, I was in the process for 6 CMO gigs, which tells you like that had not happened before, that there's something moving in the market. Like it was a good barometer, I think, of what's about to happen in terms of pitches, changes, people thinking differently, and that will spread down. The fact that that was even in that many processes, I think, is a reason for all of us who work in marketing and advertising to be optimistic about the future.
Cara?
And I think similarly, I'm relatively new in my role, and what makes me optimistic is it's a new role. So in a business in beer, in cider, which is quite a well-established business, but putting a CMO role in, and also therefore businesses making a real commitment to marketing should be sat at that executive table, the board table, and that wasn't there in the past. So I think we're seeing businesses realise, especially in traditional categories, that to grow and change, marketing has to be at that kind of top table. So that makes me really optimistic.
Richard?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. So my view is the world is changing, right? The economy's soft, it's pretty bouncy out there. So now is the time. The spotlight in the boardroom is moving straight back to the CMO. So I think that's incredibly important. So with that, I'm incredibly optimistic about that, but that comes with that great responsibility, right? So we need marketeers who are dynamic, who know their fundamentals, and actually can lead the business. So that's a real big change.
So I'm going to stick with you, Richard, if I may, because when we all think about pitching, I find generally people instantly think about the sometimes Punch and Judy show between agencies and brands and how an agency is going to pitch, but the consequence of agencies' work is you have to pitch to customers every day. You're out there pitching to the customer, trying to influence their behaviour to come to your brand. And Richard, if I start with you, who do you think are some of the brands who are pitching well to the customer right now?
Yeah, I think if there's one I had to choose right now, I've just fallen in love with Guinness. I just think it's an amazing brand. And I think what they're doing really well here is, since COVID, who remembers the Welcome Back ad on TV? Do you remember that?
Right.
But they then shifted their focus to look at 3 things. One was their big challenge, I believe, was quickly they're known for specific moments in the year, right? Winter or St. Patrick's Day. But their brief was they needed to shift to be all year round. What an amazing brief to really start to rethink the brand. So they focused on really identifying where does Guinness turn up in culture, how they innovate, how do they change their marketing model to turn up all in the different points around the year. So who remembers the Love Guinness for Summer, that ad that was amazing? It was a brilliant ad. But they changed it by bringing it to life, not just through, the usual kind of channels, but through consumers themselves. So they really rallied them to actually say, talk about the brand in summer across the beaches, across parks, really bring it to life, to grab a cold Guinness. Who would have believed that? And that's one part of their always-on strategy throughout the year. And through that momentum, the final thing I would add is they've done such a great job with the momentum of the brand. Look, other consumers are going on and taking that themselves. So who's done the Split the G piece? Yeah, I have. And people posting it. So that's something that I'm really envious of. And I'm taking learnings for the beauty industry as well for us at Number 7.
So talking about envy, you might not know this, but Cara, where were you graduate recruit?
Guinness.
Brilliant.
A long time ago.
And how much of the work we're seeing at the moment did you do in your... can we basically thank you for all the work?
I worked on the spirit side, so I can't claim the Guinness, but yeah.
So, Cara, coming to you, taking big creative leaps is a risk, and there's huge reward for marketers. But how do you decide when to take a big leap? Because it's on your shoulders, or maybe just play it safe and stick with the same old, same old.
I think it's a really tough question because obviously you're spending, investing, I like to say, but as CFOs often say, you're spending our money and you're doing something that not everybody in the business understands, although everybody in most businesses is a pocket marketeer and everybody has their opinion. But I think the thing you have to do is you have to be clear with yourself what's not working, what problem am I actually trying to solve here? So you have to go to your data because although marketing is an art, it's also a science, and we have to prove to people why creativity works, why it actually is going to make us more money. And then you have to be really clear what problem you're trying to solve. So there's no point in creativity for creativity's sake. An old boss of mine used to say, give me the freedom of a tight brief. I think he was talking about marketing. But basically, you have to go, right, what is my data telling me? What is my challenge? And how can real creativity help me fix that? Republican Media, who are our media agency, I know they're based in Manchester here as well as up in Scotland, they have a model that will say to us, if you've got really strong creative, this is how much more effective your media is going to be. If you're medium creative, this is it. And especially on a brand where your media budget's limited, having really punchy creative is going to work. Now, taking a leap, the key thing is stick with your brand DNA, stick with your idea, go crazy with your execution. Don't start messing with your idea. Don't start messing with your roots. So Guinness is actually a great example of the DNA is the DNA. It has been forever. The creativity, it's that what is the problem we're trying to solve now? Now go crazy in that confined brief.
And then a question for you is, I wouldn't mind just touching on a human question.
Yeah.
When you are taking a really bold pivot, how much pressure as a person do you feel under?
Yeah, okay. So I'm about to do this this year with one of our brands, Magna's. So we're in the process with a new agency, etc. And honestly, it's one of those things that feels like if we don't get this right, literally all eyes in the business are on us. But we know we have to be brave.
Yeah.
But I think then you have to rely on all your agencies and your experts, bring together your wisdom council and go, right, are we all clear why we're doing this? Are we all clear what we're about to do? Are we clear how we're going to measure it? Are we clear how we're going to explain what we're doing? So you're not really on your own. You were never responsible by yourself for it. So you have to bring people on the journey so that you're not just taking a leap in the dark. There's actually an awful lot of data behind it.
So if you're thinking that's projecting forward, Sarah, I'd love you to give us an example where you have taken a bold leap in the past, and did it pay off?
Yeah, so probably the best example, and it may or may not seem as a leap, was when I was started at Merlin about 5-6 years ago. They had a very proven marketing model around something they called Show the Metal.
Show the metal.
Show the metal. And we had a CEO who'd been there, who used to been a marketing director at Alton Towers, many places. And as you come in, as part of your induction, you're trained on the show the metal, which literally means you have to show a lot of roller coaster in your ads, and you have to tell a lot of the core product benefits really clearly, and they need to lead, right? So I took them on a whole journey with our creative agencies of moving from show the metal to feel the metal. And that was like, that sounds like nothing, but actually what that really meant was things like deep storytelling. So one of the examples of last year was we launched the UK's tallest, fastest coaster, but it was wrapped around a whole creative idea about how you find your fearless and you get given wings. And that all came from, really convincing the board we needed to move into human storytelling and truths and connect better with our audiences, which allows you to explode into all different places in different ways. Now, so how did I convince them to do that? Shed ton of research and insight and data, and it was actually really scary to go against 20 years of perceived wisdom at Merlin. And actually, throughout the time I was there, after we'd started to prove the model out, we found that other people in the business would come back from abroad and be like, what on earth are you doing? Why aren't you showing the metal enough? And start twitching, who'd been always at Merlin. And so it was like a constant, well, look at what we're doing at Alton Towers now. They've got this huge depth of storytelling and behave like a movie brand with things like Nemesis Reborn and then the CBBS. But at the heart of it is exactly what these two people were talking about, which is deep understanding of each individual brand's DNA and then exploding it out into different touch points and connecting in the right way with the right audiences.
But at all times, you're pitching.
Yeah,
Guinness is
whole
pitching.
time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's bigger than, so the concept is much bigger than just what the agency is bringing in to see, because you are having to pitch on their behalf,
100%.
either before you've brought the
That's
agency
it.
into the room
100%.
or after you've brought the agency in the
100%.
room to push it all the way through the system.
But that's really critical, because I don't think agencies understand that enough, which is my best agency partners they have known my drama in the boardroom to get this stuff going on and given me the data, they've given me the help. And part of the decision, when I've made the best decisions that I've made, has been in pitches, I know these people can help me sell this in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simple as
That's
that.
it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, in that case, Sarah or Cara, I might actually stay with you. How does the agency help you sell it in? How do they? Because to make the great campaign, they need to be alongside you. How can you make the case internally to get the bolder decisions
Oh, well,
signed
I think,
off?
well, I mean, look, I don't know Centre Parks. I haven't started yet, but I can only comment at Merlin. At Merlin, I had in both the media agency and the creative agency amazing planners who helped me really understand the data and the insight and bring it to life in a way that explained what we were doing, helped us manage the research process so that it was really robust and thorough, and then gave me the decks helped me, give me the tools to go into that room and be able to sell it. And then when it didn't go right, recognise, because it didn't always go right, some guy might have turned up from Australia with the old Show the Metal route who was now signing off the ads. Don't blame me for that. We did our best as a team. We're in this together as a team. So that the agencies where it's worked really, really well, there have been people who understand the business need to sell it in with data and insight equally.
Yeah, perfect.
I think that's exactly it. You've got to remember when you're normally dealing with a chief exec who often was a CFO, seems to happen an awful lot.
Yeah.
And you've got a team, and because you're investing so much money, you've got to show them the money.
Yeah.
You've got to show them that your job is also to make money. Our job is to generate that desire and how that drives the business metrics. And again, that you are equipped when you go in. So I have just appointed an agency. One of my criteria was, I know we're about to take a risk. I know I can bring you in. And within 4 weeks of a chief exec joining, I basically had them sat there with me to sell a creative idea to a chief exec who I'd literally just given him the brand induction, then went, by the way, here's the new ad idea I need to sell you because, by the way, I'm going to need $500,000 to make it. So you need people who can bring that in and understand your business problem, not just, I need to make some ads or I need to make some content.
That's so spot on, because it our jobs essentially are changing people's minds, going above, above beyond to drive that growth, right, is changing people's minds in the boardroom. So, whatever pitch is going on, we need to be personally understand that the agency understands the insight, they understand our brand, but they're with you all the way. I think so exactly the same, because it's a lonely business, isn't it? So I think it's spot on.
Yeah.
So, agencies. I want to get, and I'm going to start with you, Richard, and if you may have some. Talk to me about some of the memorable things that you have seen. I mean, you can obviously go with the positive. You might go with some more spicy ones as well. But memorability when agencies are coming. What's a way that people have managed to pull on your heartstrings, cut through, or maybe leave you with something we thought, I'm not going to work with them for whatever reason.
So I should also mention that I've worked both sides. So I've worked agency side and client side as well. So that helps, doesn't it? But the most memorable positive would be British Airways, when I worked for British Airways. And what was memorable about that was talking about the insight. Instead of we had a tour going around different agencies, and the agency I'm talking about actually took us to T5. And they had rigged it up so we could actually see how passengers react to the service, right? So the pain, you remember, going to a flight's pretty stressful, isn't it? Going in, the signage, the type of service that they were getting from cabin crew or when the check-ins. And they took us through the experience to say, this is what your passengers feel. Look what competitors think, this is what you are. And then they sat us down in Cafe Nero. Who knows T5? There's a little Cafe Nero on the side to do the pitch. And so we were outside of the agency, world, it's all very controllable, to this completely uncontrollable space. The power of the ideas, though, because as they were presenting, they pointed to different people and they could spot the experiences that they were having, was so powerful. So we talked about in the boardroom, I had to sign off this big, it was a big global pitch to convince the board. And that, I always remember that because they were brave enough to go outside it and show what real consumers were feeling to bring to life a big idea, which I used in the boardroom as well. Amazing experience.
Cara?
I think probably one of the most recent memorable pitches was on my previous company. So it was a whiskey brand, Old Pulteney, a malt whiskey brand. And we had an agency pitch where basically they just ran it as a working meeting. So we'd said, I don't run pitches to buy creative. I've never bought the creative that's pitched. And I actually ask people almost not to do it because we should co-create creative. What I'm choosing is, how is it to work with you? Mm-hmm. So one of the things we'd said to them is, I want to feel what it feels like to work with you. Yeah. And when these guys walked out, we all went, oh God, I forgot that was a pitch. Mm. We were actually just doing the work together and they were sharing their thinking and they were getting us to input and we were up sticking Post-its on walls and we were doing the thing together. They didn't arrive with all the answers, but they said, look, this is how we work. Yeah. This is what it will feel like to work with us and how we'll be with you. And everybody just walked out going, I just want to work. I want to work with them. That's how that felt. And they listened to our brief, which was, we want to understand how it feels to work with you and what you bring to the table. And they got appointed. Yeah.
Fantastic.
My favourite ever pitch, Jill and Richard's team ran for me, which was when we appointed Wavemaker about 4 years ago for the UK, and then they went on to take on most of our global business. And in that room, and there were a number of things that was going on, one of which was, as we walked in, we were just coming out of COVID, weren't we, around 4 years ago. They took us through this amazing bar, and it was on the 11th floor of sea containers, and the team hadn't been out for ages, and it was 5 minutes walk from our office, and they were like, can we get to go to this bar? As we were walking in, they were going, yeah, you get a card, you can come anytime. I was actually just thinking, we never ever went to that bar, but the bar had a huge impact on the team. Afterwards, they were all talking about this bloody bar more than the pitch. Then we went into the room, and we had this work session, and they have this thing, a Wavemaker, which was all about positive provocation. And that is very Merlin, which we challenge each other, they were challenging us, they had some really difficult things to say. And it just felt like a cultural and people and bar alignment all at once that left everybody with this really warm feeling that whatever happened, they'd be the right people for us. And to give you an example of how deep this relationship went, when I had my leaving lunch with them this week, me and the CEO were both crying. like the fact like I've had to go on gardening leave and not work with them anymore. Like it's a deep, because we've been through the trenches together on so many of those conversations with the CEO. We've had 2 CEOs, we've lasted 2 CEOs together. So, that was the best ever pitch. And I can't even remember anything they said.
Yeah.
There you go.
Perfect. So we're coming up to time.
Yeah.
So final, we started with a quick fire question, quick fire round for you. One bit of advice for agencies who are pitching. Quick advice.
Understand what I say guest in my world. Understand the guest and understand the clients.
Perfect. Cara?
For the agencies, I think it is really properly read the brief and interrogate the brief. So if you don't think the brief is quite right, also interrogate the brief. Yeah.
Richard?
Live the consumer experience, so show me that you've lived it and you understand it. And the second thing is show me that it's effective, because I got to walk in the boardroom and actually get it signed off.
Brilliant. Well, it's been a huge pleasure to interview the 3 of you. And Cara, just you came from?
I've come down from Edinburgh.
Quick to get here from Edinburgh?
About 3 hours on a
Perfect.
train.
So Manchester, good venue for Edinburgh as well.
Yeah.
So it's a huge pleasure to have the 3 of you on stage today. I'd like to give everybody a big round of applause to Sarah, Cara, and Richard.
Thank you.